In this lesson, we will start applying the slow in and slow out principle using a setting called easing. Open your Bouncing Ball 2 file to get started. And we just recently learned how to use onion skinning to look at the spacing between multiple frames, and we decided that when they are all equally spaced, it's boring. Compare these two animations and ask yourself these questions. Which animation seems more natural and realistic, and which is more fun to watch? The animation that has the person dropping the ball off the ledge looks like it belongs in a cartoon and might have a story to go along with it, while the bouncing ball we created on the left looks very unnatural. We're going to change that right now by applying the slow in and slow out principle. Switch back to your Bouncing Ball 2 file. Click on frame 1 and make sure onion skinning is turned on. Drag the right onion skin bracket out to frame 13. So on the screen, you should be able to see all of the frames from the ball's starting position at the top all the way to its contact position at the bottom. Now go over to the Properties panel, and you should see under the Tweening section an option called Ease. If for some reason you don't see that option, click on your frame again in the timeline, and it should show up. Next to the Ease setting, you see the number 0. If you click on that 0 and drag it to the left, the numbers decrease or turn into negative numbers. As you're doing that, watch what happens to the frames on your screen. Drag that number all the way to -100. You should notice that now at the top of your screen, your frames are a lot closer together, and they start to spread out more and more as they move closer to the bottom. Let's look at what happens if we drag it in the other direction to +100. The opposite happened. At the top, the frames are further apart, and they get closer and closer together as they reach the bottom. When we just changed those two settings from -100 to +100, we created both a slow in that started off slow and got fast, and a slow out that started off fast and got slow. If I were to play my video right now, I can predict exactly what's going to happen. On frame 1, when I look at the frames, I see that the balls are spread quite a bit of ways apart. As they get closer to the bottom, they get closer and closer together. That tells me that the ball is going to appear to fall very fast at the beginning and slow down as it gets to the bottom. Let's look. Again, if I look at frame 1, the frames are spread out quite a bit at the top of the screen and get closer together at the bottom. That's an ease out, and that's represented by that +100 number we created. If we type in -100 and switch it back to ease in, we see the opposite this time. The balls are close together at the top of the screen, representing slow movement, and they get faster towards the bottom. I can tell that because they're spaced out more. Slow at the top, faster towards the bottom. Slow in and ease in are the same thing, and they are always represented by negative numbers in the ease settings. Slow out and ease out are the same thing, and they are always represented by positive numbers. In order to create the effect of the ball bouncing in a natural, realistic way, we need to add two different eases, or two different slows. On the first frame, we're going to keep that -100 ease in that we already created. If you took that off, just go ahead and type in -100 in that easing setting. When the ball hits the ground, the contact frame, we want to add an ease out this time. And since ease out is always represented by a positive number, I'm going to add a 100 in there. Now when I play my movie, the ball looks much more realistic. Once you get those settings applied correctly, you can test your movie by pressing Enter, or you can test it in full screen by pressing Command Enter on a Mac or Control Enter on a PC. Pause the video here and take a few minutes to play around with those easing settings. There are more options than just the -100 and the 100. You can choose any numbers in between those numbers. After you've done some experimenting, go back to your file, make sure you set the numbers back to -100 on frame 1, +100 on frame 13, and save your file so we can move on to the next activity.